Drav'kor the Annihilator, terror of the Voidways, scourge of the seven systems, and champion of the Vex'tal Empire, it stood 13 feet tall from his taloned feet to the tips of his obsidian horns. His leathery crimson skin was covered in battle scars that glowed faintly purple when he became enraged, which was often. The mere whisper of his name on distant planets caused entire species to evacuate their solar systems. Drav, did you eat the last of my Cheetos again? The fearsome warlord flinched, his mighty shoulders hunching slightly as the sound of socked feet padded across the command deck of his dreadnought, the inevitable doom. I have consumed no such thing, Mike, Drav'kor rumbled, his voice like gravel in a garbage disposal. He discreetly wiped orange dust from his claws onto his ceremonial battle kilt. Mike Henderson, 5'9" with perpetual bedhead and wearing a faded World's Okayest Brother t-shirt, crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. Really? Because there's orange dust on your fancy skirt thing. It is a battle kilt. Drav'kor roared, causing the 3 nearest crew members to pass out from fear. And I am Drav'kor the Annihilator. I do not sneak food from your quarters like some little brother? Mike grinned, flopping down in the captain's chair, technically Drav'kor's chair, but everyone knew better than to mention it. The massive alien warlord deflated slightly. I ate your cheese snacks. I will requisition more at the next outpost. Cool. Get the flammin' hot ones this time. By the way, isn't that High Council thing today? Mike pulled out his phone, a device that baffled Vex'tal engineers who couldn't understand how such primitive technology continued to function in deep space. It had been 23 galactic standard years since the Vex'tal warship had discovered the lone human exploration vessel near the outer rim. The crew was mostly dead, victims of a catastrophic system failure, except for one small human child who somehow survived in a makeshift cryopod. By Vex'tal tradition, any survivor of such a disaster was blessed by the cosmic void, and therefore worthy of adoption. Supreme Commander Grax Nor had protested, claiming humans were too fragile for their warrior culture. But little Mike had immediately bitten the commander's finger and refused to let go until given ice cream. Drav'kor, then a young warrior himself, had been impressed by the tiny human's ferocity and claimed him as kin. No one expected the arrangement to last. Certainly no one expected that 2 decades later, the most terrifying force in the known galaxy would be regularly getting lectured about leaving wet towels on the bathroom floor. The command deck's massive viewscreen flickered to life, displaying the somber face of High Counselor Vex'tal, a tentacled head fronds twitching with nervous energy. Drav'kor the Annihilator, your presence is required immediately at the Galactic Conclave. A matter of the utmost. Her 4 eyes widened in horror. Is that your human sitting in your command throne? Mike waved cheerfully. Avrex, looking tentacle-y as ever, love the new head fronds. Very chic. Drav'kor sighed, a sound like air escaping a punctured battleship. I will attend your council, Vex'tal, but Mike comes with me. Absolutely not. This is a matter of galactic security. No humans have ever been permitted in the sacred chambers of. Then I shall not attend. Drav'kor folded his massive arms across his armored chest. Where I go, my brother goes. Mike shot his alien brother a surprised look. Dude, if it's some super secret alien stuff, I can hang in the food court or whatever. No, Mike, Drav'kor said firmly. Last time I left you alone on a space station, you reprogrammed the universal translator to replace the word diplomat with fancy pants and nearly started 3 wars. That was hilarious, and you know it. Enough, shrieked Vex'tal. Fine, bring the human, but he must not touch anything, speak to anyone, or make any of those hideous sounds he calls humming. Sweet, said Mike, already humming something that sounded suspiciously like Baby Shark. The sacred council chamber of the Vex'tal Empire was carved from the heart of a collapsed neutron star, surrounded by a time-dilated gravity well that made each hour within its walls equal to mere minutes outside. The chamber's walls were lined with the preserved remains of defeated enemies, their bodies arranged in poses of eternal submission. Mike whistled as they entered. Cheery place you guys got here. Very goth. You should put up some fairy lights or something. The assembled High Counselors, 12 of the most powerful and feared beings in the galaxy, stared in horror at the human casually strolling into their sacred chamber, wearing cargo shorts and flip-flops. You dare bring this creature into our midst, hissed Counselor Zrax, a being composed entirely of sentient plasma contained within an ancient battlesuit. Humans are barely Category 3 sentience. Hey, Mike protested. We put cheese in a spray can. That's at least Category 4 innovation. Drav'kor moved to stand protectively near his brother. State your crisis, Council. My time is valuable, and my patience is limited. High Counselor Vex'tal gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a massive, pulsating black mass slowly consuming a distant star system. This is the Void Plague, she intoned gravely. An ancient enemy we believed was contained millennia ago. It has escaped and is consuming worlds. Already 3 systems have been lost. Looks like a giant amoeba, Mike commented, squinting at the display. Have you tried antibiotics? The council erupted in outrage. Silence. Drav'kor's roar echoed through the chamber, causing several ancient artifacts to shatter. Continue. Vex'tal. The Void Plague is heading for the Nexus Point, the central hub connecting all major hyperlanes in this sector. If it reaches there, it can spread throughout the galaxy within days. Someone must deliver the cosmic spear to the heart of the entity and detonate it, destroying the plague from within. A suicide mission, Drav'kor stated flatly. Indeed. The chosen warrior will not return. Then I shall go, Drav'kor declared without hesitation, in my life for the Empire. Hold up, Mike interrupted, raising his hand like he was in a classroom. What exactly is this cosmic spear thing? Counselor Zrax glowered at the human. It is a weapon of last resort, containing the compressed essence of a dying star. The containment field must be manually deactivated from within the Void Plague. No remote detonation is possible due to the plague's quantum interference field. So let me get this straight, Mike said, pacing around the hologram. You're sending my brother on a one-way trip to basically hand-deliver a bomb to the center of a space amoeba. Your understanding is surprisingly accurate. Human, sneered another counselor, a being with 6 arms and crystalline skin. That's a terrible plan, Mike said flatly. The council erupted again, this time in genuine outrage. The human dares. Sacrilege. I shall devour his soul. Enough. Drav'kor slammed his fist into the ancient council table, cracking the neutron star material. My brother speaks with my voice. If he finds fault with the plan, then I wish to hear alternatives. Mike stepped forward, oddly confident for a being surrounded by creatures who could atomize him with a thought. Look, no offense to your fancy space bomb, but before we go nuclear, have you tried, I don't know, poisoning it? It's basically a giant single-celled organism from what I can see. Absurd, hissed Vex'tal. What poison could affect a cosmic entity? Alcohol, Mike said simply. Alcohol disrupts cell membranes. It's why we use it as a disinfectant. Insane. 19. Load up a ship with high-proof booze, crash it into that thing, and see what happens. The silence that followed was profound enough that Mike could hear his own heartbeat. This is why humans remain Category 3, Zrax finally said. You think primitive chemicals can defeat a cosmic horror? The cosmic spear is the only way. Fine, Mike shrugged. But I'm going with Drav. Absolutely not. The entire council shouted in unison. I will not permit it, Drav'kor said firmly, placing a massive hand on Mike's shoulder. This is my duty as a Vex'tal warrior. And you're my brother, Mike replied. Besides, how many suicide missions have you gone on where I had to bail you out? Remember the Kronos Nebula? The moon of eternal screams, that weird cult planet where they worshipped talking furniture? Drav'kor grimaced at the memories. This is different, Mike. Is it though? Every time you go all glorious death in battle on me, I end up having to improvise a way out. At least this time I can start planning early. The brothers stared at each other in a silent battle of wills that had played out countless times over 2 decades. "We go together," Drav'kor finally declared to the council. "Or neither of us goes." The councillors knew that tone. It was the tone that had preceded the annihilation of the Krell hive mind, the subjugation of the Taurus Reach, and the 3-day karaoke contest that was now forbidden to be mentioned in official records. "Very well," Vex'tal conceded. "The mission launches in 6 hours. The fate of the galaxy is in your hands, Drav'kor the Annihilator, and Mike." "Cool," Mike said, already typing on his phone. "Hey, did you guys know you can order denatured alcohol in bulk through Space Amazon?" Wild. The launch bay of the Vex'tal battle station was filled with the Empire's most elite warriors, all come to witness the departure of their greatest champion on his final mission. Thousands of fierce soldiers pounded their weapons against their armor in a thunderous salute as Drav'kor strode toward the specially prepared ship that would carry him and the cosmic spear to glory. Behind him trudged Mike, pulling a wheeled suitcase and carrying a large duffel bag. "Mike," Drav'kor growled under his breath, "this is a suicide mission to save the galaxy. What could you possibly need to pack?" "Snacks, mostly," Mike replied. "Also my Nintendo Switch, some changes of clothes, and about 600 gallons of moonshine." Drav'kor stopped so abruptly that Mike walked straight into his back. 600 gallons of what? Moonshine. You know, super high-proof alcohol. I had to call in some favors from that 3-armed smuggler we met on Betelgeuse last year. He asked me my vintage baseball card collection. But I figure saving the galaxy is worth it. You're still on this ridiculous alcohol theory. Drav'kor pinched the bridge of his nose ridge, a human gesture he'd picked up from Mike that had spread throughout the Vex'tal military ranks. "Look, worst-case scenario, we can have one hell of a last party before we die gloriously or whatever." The ship waiting for them was the final sacrifice, a sleek, black vessel designed for one purpose, to deliver the cosmic spear to the heart of the Void Plague, to where the pilot would manually trigger the detonation. Its hull was covered in ritual markings and the names of every world already lost to the plague. As they approached, the High Priestess of the Eternal Void stepped forward to bestow the traditional blessing of the doomed. "May your atoms be scattered across the cosmos with honor," she intoned solemnly, raising her ceremonial dagger. "Thanks," Mike said cheerfully, ducking under her arm and heading up the boarding ramp. "Love the outfit, by the way. Very spacey goth." The priestess looked so offended that Drav'kor feared she might try to stab Mike there and then. He quickly performed the traditional salute and followed his brother onto the ship. Inside, the final sacrifice was austere and functional, with a cockpit designed for a single pilot, a small meditation chamber, and a sealed compartment housing the cosmic spear. "Cozy," Mike commented, immediately starting to unpack his bags, dibs on the bigger chair. "There is only one chair, Mike. This ship was not designed for passengers." "Good thing I brought a camping chair then, Hugh." Mike pulled out a collapsible nylon chair with cup holders in both arms. "See? Planning ahead." Drav'kor began the pre-launch sequence, his massive clawed hands dancing across controls designed for his species' unique physiology. "The journey to the Void Plague will take approximately 32 hours, he explained. "We will use this time for meditation, preparation, and the traditional rites of passage. Or," Mike countered, "we could play Mario Kart and eat beef jerky. I brought enough for both of us." The massive ship lifted off smoothly, the assembled warriors continuing their rhythmic salute until the final sacrifice was just a speck in the artificial sky of the battle station. Once they were safely in hyperspace, Drav'kor engaged the autopilot and turned to find Mike had somehow already transformed their austere suicide vessel into something resembling a college dorm room. Snack wrappers, electronic devices, and what appeared to be a small lava lamp now cluttered the previously immaculate cockpit. "This is a sacred vessel of ultimate sacrifice, Mike," Drav'kor said wearily. "Not a... what did you call it? Man cave?" "Everywhere can be a man cave with the right attitude," Mike replied, focused on setting up his portable game system. "Besides, if we're going to die, Might as well be comfortable. The Vex'tal way is to embrace discomfort before battle. Yeah, and how's that working out for your Empire's blood pressure? You guys are the most stressed out species I've ever met, and I once dated a girl who was working on her dissertation, planning a wedding, and running a startup at the same time. Drav'kor sighed and settled into the pilot's chair, which creaked ominously under his weight. You have never understood our ways, Mike. Sure I do, Mike said, tossing his brother a bag of spicy beef jerky. You guys love being dramatic about everything. Death this, glory that. Honor whatever. It's like you're all theater kids who never grew out of your emo phase. Before Drav'kor could formulate a suitably outraged response, the ship's proximity alarm blared. They weren't due to encounter anything in hyperspace. The route had been carefully cleared. Impossible. Drav'kor growled, checking the sensors. We're being pursued. Space pirates? Mike asked, suddenly interested. Worse. Quasalt raiders. The viewscreen showed 3 jagged, asymmetrical vessels gaining on them rapidly. The Quasalt were known throughout the galaxy as ruthless scavengers who stripped ships of all valuable technology, often while the crews were still alive. They must have detected the cosmic spear's energy signature, Drav'kor muttered, hands flying over the controls. They think we're carrying valuable technology. I mean, we are, Mike pointed out. Yes, but not the kind they can sell, Drav'kor barked. They're forcing us out of hyperspace to prepare for combat. The final sacrifice shuddered as it was yanked back into normal space, the pursuing raiders surrounding them in a classic attack formation. The lead raider ship hailed them, and a grotesque face appeared on the viewscreen. The Quasalt were insectoid beings with multiple compound eyes and chitinous mandibles that clicked rapidly as they spoke. Vex'tal vessel, the raider captain chittered, surrender your cargo or be boarded and harvested. Drav'kor stood to his full height, his battle scars beginning to glow with rage. I am Drav'kor the Annihilator, terror of the Voidways, scourge of the 7 systems. I have obliterated entire civilizations that dared to stand against me. I will tear your ships apart with my bare hands and use your exoskeletons as drinking vessels. The Quasalt captain seemed unimpressed. Drav'kor travels in a small ship with no escort. I think not. Prepare to be boarded. The transmission cut off, and Drav'kor roared in frustration. They don't believe who I am. The fools. To be fair, Mike said, rummaging through one of his bags, if I were them, I wouldn't believe the most feared warlord in the galaxy would be flying around in the equivalent of a space U-Haul either. This is no time for your human humor, Mike. They're launching boarding pods. There are likely 30 raiders, at least too many even for me to defeat in close quarters. Mike pulled something from his bag, an odd-looking helmet with various attachments and a tinted visor. Remember that costume party on Rydal V last year? This is hardly the time to Drav'kor stopped, suddenly understanding. The impersonator contest. Yep. Mike grinned, tossing the helmet to his brother. Put this on, get on the comms, and act like yourself. I'll handle the rest. Drav'kor caught the helmet, which was designed to make the wearer appear as a fearsome Vex'tal warlord, an elaborate costume Mike had created for a galactic costume contest. They'd won second place, losing only to a surprisingly accurate recreation of the god emperor of Natulax, complete with functioning quantum tentacles. As the raiders' boarding pods latched onto their hull, Drav'kor donned the helmet while Mike worked feverishly at the ship's communication array. What are you doing? Drav'kor demanded. Remember how I accidentally downloaded the entire Vex'tal military communications protocol database when I was trying to find Space Cat videos? You said that was an accident. Yeah, well, I lied. Hold tight. The ship shuddered as the first cutting tools began to breach their hull. Mike hit a final button with a flourish, and the communication screen flickered to life, showing a very official-looking Vex'tal military transmission. To the raiders attempting to cut their way in. It would appear that the small vessel they were boarding had just received a priority communication from the Vex'tal High Command. And mighty Drav'kor intoned a stern-looking Vex'tal admiral on the screen. The decoy mission is working perfectly. The 20 cloaked warships accompanying you have maintained their stealth field as ordered. Shall we decloak and engage these insignificant raiders? Or do you wish the honor of their destruction yourself? It was, of course, complete fiction, a pre-recorded message from an old military broadcast that Mike had edited and was now playing on a loop. But to the raiders, monitoring external communications, the cutting sounds abruptly stopped. Mike winked at his brother and opened a channel to the raider vessels. This is the personal vessel of Drav'kor the Annihilator. You have exactly 30 seconds to detach and flee before we order our cloaked fleet to open fire. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with almost conical speed, the boarding pods detached. On the view screen, the 3 raider ships frantically maneuvered away, jumping to hyperspace with such haste that one of them clipped another, sending it spinning. And scene. Mike took a theatrical bow. Drav'kor removed the costume helmet, looking at his human brother with newfound respect. That was surprisingly effective. Lying is humanity's superpower, Mike said cheerfully, already checking the ship for damage. Well, that and making alcohol out of literally anything fermentable. Speaking of which, Drav'kor said, eyeing the cargo hold where Mike had somehow stashed his hundreds of gallons of moonshine, perhaps your ridiculous plan deserves further consideration. Mike's grin could have powered a small sun. Now you're talking, bro. Let's science the shit out of this space amoeba. Pray. The void plague loomed ahead of them, a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to devour light itself. Already, it had consumed an entire star system, leaving nothing but empty space where planets once orbited. The ship's sensors struggled to analyze the entity, returning contradictory readings and error messages. By the eternal void, Drav'kor whispered, genuinely awed by the cosmic horror before them. It's even larger than the reports indicated. Size doesn't matter, Mike said automatically, then grinned at his brother's glare. Sorry, force of habit. But seriously, bigger just means more surface area for our plan to work on. They had spent the remainder of their journey modifying the final sacrifice according to Mike's surprisingly detailed specifications. The cosmic spear remained in its containment field as a backup plan, but the ship now also carried hundreds of containers of high-proof alcohol rigged to burst on impact. Your plan is to intoxicate a cosmic entity, Drav'kor stated for perhaps the dozenth time, still unable to fully believe it. Or like dissolve its cell membranes. But sure, getting it drunk works as a metaphor. Mike was surprisingly focused, checking and rechecking their modifications to the ship's systems. The important part is that we've rigged the engines to go into overload 30 seconds after impact. The explosion should disperse the alcohol throughout its system. And if it doesn't work? Mike patted the console controlling the cosmic spear. Then we go with plan B and die gloriously. Win-win, right? Drav'kor shook his head but couldn't help a rumbling chuckle. You are the strangest being I have ever encountered. Mike Henderson. Right back at you, big guy. Mike checked their trajectory one more time. We'll need to aim for what seems like the nucleus, that darker spot near the center. I'll pilot. You man the emergency systems. You will pilot? Drav'kor asked incredulously. This is a Vex'tal military vessel. Yeah, and I've logged like 10,000 hours on flight simulators. Mike was already sliding into the pilot's seat. Plus I've got better reflexes. No offense, but you guys evolved from apex predators who ambushed prey, not ones who needed split-second timing. Drav'kor wanted to argue but knew his brother was right. Vex'tal were powerful and strategic, but humans had developed almost supernatural reflexes from their evolutionary history of catching small, fast prey and dodging larger predators. Very well, he conceded, moving to the secondary console. But if we die because of your piloting, I will be very disappointed. Noted. Mike's hands danced across the controls with surprising confidence, approaching optimal entry trajectory in 3, 2, 1. The final sacrifice plunged toward the void plague, its engines straining as Mike pushed them beyond recommended limits. The darkness seemed to reach for them, tendrils of void extending like hungry fingers. It's reacting to our approach, Drav'kor warned, reading the sensors. It senses the cosmic spear. Then let's give it something else to worry about, Mike muttered, executing a series of maneuvers that made the ship shudder in protest. He activated the ship's external speakers at maximum volume, and suddenly the void of space was filled with. "What is that noise?" Drav'kor roared over the cacophony. "AC/DC," Mike shouted back. "Back in black, specifically. If we're doing this, we're doing it with style." The thumping bass of classic rock echoed through space as they hurtled toward the heart of darkness. The void plague seemed momentarily confused, its tendrils pulling back slightly at the unexpected sensory input. "It's working," Drav'kor exclaimed. "The sound is disrupting its outer membrane." "Rock and roll, baby," Mike grinned, pushing the ship into a steep dive toward what appeared to be the nucleus of the entity. Brace for impact in 5, 4, 3, 2. The final sacrifice plunged into the darkness, immediately engulfed by the semi-solid matter of the void plague. The hull groaned under the pressure as they pushed deeper, the ship's exterior beginning to dissolve. "Hull integrity at 60% and dropping," Drav'kor reported. "We won't reach the nucleus before the ship disintegrates." "We don't need to." Mike flipped a series of switches, activating their modified payload. "Deploying operation party time, now." Hundreds of containers burst simultaneously, releasing their high-proof cargo into the void entity. At the same time, Mike ignited the ship's emergency thrusters, creating a backdraft that spread the alcohol in a rapidly expanding cloud throughout the creature's body. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Where the alcohol made contact with the void plague's matter, it began to bubble and dissolve, creating rapidly expanding pockets of emptiness. "It's working," Drav'kor shouted, genuine amazement in his voice. "The creature is breaking down at the cellular level." "Told you," Mike crowed, executing a tight turn to head back toward the surface. "Now we just need to get out before." The ship lurched violently as the void plague convulsed around them, its entire structure beginning to collapse. "Change of plans," Mike grunted, fighting the controls. "We're going to crash." "Like a lot," with the cosmic spear, Drav'kor warned. "If its containment field fails during a crash." "Ready on it." Mike's fingers flew across the emergency panel, ejecting the dangerous weapon deeper into the disintegrating mass of the void plague. "That should make sure any survivors of this thing get a nice surprise cleanup crew." The view screen showed nothing but churning darkness as the ship tumbled through the dying cosmic entity, alarms blaring from every console. "Mike," Drav'kor said solemnly, "if we do not survive this, I want you to know that you have been a worthy brother." "Save the speech, big guy," Mike replied, still fighting the controls. "We're not dying today. Look." Through the chaos ahead, a patch of starlight was visible. They were approaching the outer edge of the rapidly dissolving void plague. Ejecting remaining fuel reserves now. Mike slammed his fist on a large red button, and the ship lurched forward as its fuel was explosively jettisoned behind them, providing one final push toward freedom. They burst from the dissolving mass like a cork from a champagne bottle, trailing tendrils of dying void matter that evaporated in their wake. Behind them, the enormous cosmic entity was visibly shrinking, collapsing in on itself as the alcohol continued to break down its cellular structure. The final sacrifice drifted through space, most of its systems offline, its hull pitted and partially dissolved. "Emergency power only," Drav'kor reported, checking what remained of their systems. "Life support is functional, but we have no propulsion, no communication, and approximately 6 days of air." "Could be worse," Mike said cheerfully, reclining in the pilot's seat and pulling a slightly crushed bag of cheese puffs from his pocket. "We just killed a space monster that an entire galactic empire couldn't handle. Someone will come looking for us eventually." As if on cue, the emergency communication system crackled to life. "Unidentified vessel," came a familiar voice. "This is High Counselor Rex IA of the Vex'tal Empire. Our sensors detected the collapse of the void plague. Identify yourselves immediately." Mike grinned at his brother and leaned toward the con. "Hey Rex, it's Mike and Drav. Got any plans for the next 1,000 years or so?" Because have I got a story for you. The Grand Hall of Heroes had never been so full. Representatives from every species in the known galaxy had gathered to witness the unprecedented ceremony, the awarding of the Star of Ultimate Valor to a human. Mike fidgeted it in his formal attire, a properly tailored suit, rather than his usual t-shirt and jeans, as he stood beside his towering brother at the center of the vast chamber. "Do I really have to wear this?" he whispered to Drav'kor. "It's itchy." "Yes," Drav'kor replied firmly. "You have been granted the highest honor our empire can bestow. You will wear the ceremonial garments, and you will not complain about their itchiness." "Fine," Mike sighed. "But next time we save the galaxy, I get to wear sweats." High Counselor Vex'tal approached, carrying a crystal case containing 2 medals, each a miniature star, seemingly captured in mid-explosion, suspended in quantum stasis. "Drav'kor the Annihilator," she intoned solemnly, "terror of the Voidways, scourge of the 7 systems, champion of the Vex'tal Empire, and Mike Henderson of Earth." "Actually," Mike interrupted, "if we're doing titles, I did win the Betelgeuse Regional Chili Cook-Off last year. You could mention that." A horrified silence fell over the assembly. No one interrupted the High Counselor during a formal ceremony. To everyone's surprise, Vex'tal's face tentacles twitched in what the more observant recognized as the Vex'tal equivalent of a smile. "And Mike Henderson of Earth, vanquisher of the Void Plague, victor of the Betelgeuse Regional Chili Cook-Off," she continued without missing a beat. "The Empire honors your service and sacrifice." She placed the medals around their necks, the captured starlight pulsing in harmony with their heartbeats. "We believe the human species to be primitive," Vex'tal announced to the assembled dignitaries. "Today we acknowledge that we were mistaken. The solution that eluded our greatest minds came from human ingenuity. Perhaps there is more to these beings than we recognized." The assembled delegates erupted in thunderous applause, each species demonstrating approval in their own way, and from the rhythmic clicking of the insectoid Quarzalt to the harmonic humming of the crystalline Thos AI. As the ceremony concluded and the formal reception began, Drav'kor pulled his brother aside to a quiet alcove overlooking the capital city's glittering skyline. "You have changed things, Mike," he said quietly. "The Council is already discussing reclassifying humans as Category 4 sentients." "About time," Mike grinned. "Though honestly, I still think cheese in a spray can should have done it. My reputation has evolved as well." Drav'kor seemed genuinely troubled by this. "The troops no longer fear me as they once did. This morning, a junior officer asked if I would sign his world's okayest warlord t-shirt." Mike burst out laughing. "Oh man, that's perfect. I'm definitely getting you one of those for your birthday." "I am the terror of the Voidways," Drav'kor growled half-heartedly. "I should not be considered." "Okay." "Hey." Mike's tone turned serious as he placed a hand on his brother's massive arm. "You know what's better than being feared? Being respected. And trust me, everyone in this galaxy respects you now more than ever." Drav'kor was silent for a long moment. "Perhaps you are right. It is a different kind of honor." "Besides," Mike added with a mischievous grin, "we can always go blow up another cosmic horror if you're feeling insecure about your reputation." Despite himself, Drav'kor laughed a sound that caused several nearby diplomats to spill their drinks in shock. "What's next for us, brother?" the massive alien asked, gazing out at the stars visible through the massive crystal dome overhead. Mike shrugged, adjusting his medal. "I was thinking vacation. Somewhere with beaches and drinks with little umbrellas in them." "The Vex'tal do not take vacations," Drav'kor stated automatically. "They also didn't use high-proof alcohol to kill space monsters until last week," Mike countered. "Times change, bro." As the two brothers stood side by side, one a towering alien warlord, the other an ordinary human in a slightly rumpled suit, they watched a shooting star trace its way across the alien sky. Perhaps, Drav'kor conceded, a short vacation would be acceptable, but no little umbrellas. "We'll see," Mike grinned. "We'll definitely see." Above them, the stars of a galaxy they had saved together continued their eternal dance, unaware that the greatest force in the universe wasn't cosmic weapons or fearsome warlords, but the simple, unbreakable bond between two brothers from different worlds. Fine, Drav'kor rumbled. One small umbrella, but if anyone takes a holo picture, there will be consequences. That's the spirit, Mike laughed, clapping his brother on the back. Who knows? Maybe we'll start a trend. Fearsome warlord beach fashion could be the next big thing across the galaxy. As they rejoined the celebration, delegates from a dozen worlds parted before them, some still in fear of the mighty Drav'kor, but many now with newfound respect for the unassuming human at his side. The galactic rumor mill was already spinning tales of the Annihilator and the human, a duo more effective than any battle fleet. And somewhere, in the darkest corners of space, other cosmic horrors stirred uneasily, but suddenly aware that a new threat existed, one that came armed not with traditional weapons of war, but with impossible human solutions and the deadliest weapon of all, a really good sense of humor.